Wolf. And we are live. Big Bad retweet. Let's go. Okay, guys, welcome to the Wolf Web3 podcast. We're back. We've had another podcast earlier today, and I said, you know what? I need more. So we're going to be speaking with DR Lewis. He is he's doing a ton in our world of Bitcoin mining and stuff. So if you're at all interested in Bitcoin or Bitcoin mining, I highly recommend you follow him. All his stuff is down below in the description. He's in the title as well. If you're on Twitter streams or X streams, definitely check out his stuff. He has tons of updates. He is the go-to place for Bitcoin mining. He's also an attorney, and he's a good friend. He hosts our spaces every other week, and he hops in a lot of our Bitcoin and mining spaces weekly. And certainly a great resource at the very least, but a great human being. At the very top, he's a great guy. So, DR, thanks for coming on, man.
Appreciate it, man. Hey, I'm so happy to be here. You're such a good guy. I love your platform. Whatever I can do to help just proselytize and give people information, I'm always good to share, man. Good energy only. Let's have fun today.
Let's go. The Wolf Web three-way, everyone. Well, listen, I think it'd be good to just give like a quick rundown, quick breakdown. So you're an attorney, but you also have this double life, this Batman life, where you go home and you go on a lunch break and you're like, all right, I'm interviewing the CEO of this company. Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about how that origin story came through, I guess.
Man, I'll give you kind of the whole, A to Z where I came from. Out of Syracuse, New York, kind of a urban, more, rougher life. And I joined the military for 10 years, airplane mechanic in the U.S. Air Force. Oh, hey, Gabriel.
Not to interrupt you. I did not know Gabriel was going to come through, but Gabriel has made it. He's in the chat. I was unsure.
He didn't want to wait for you. He said, you know what? It's on Gabriel. We're going to go.
Oh shoot! I'm so sorry. I thought we were a few minutes late. That's my bad, Gabriel. We're live on stream right now.
Good to see you, Gabriel. How are you?
Doing well. Good to see you, DR.
Yeah, right on.
So you want me to go? Do you want to bring Gabriel in?
Yeah, we should bring. I completed my bad. I literally thought we started on time, but we literally started early. So Gabriel. All we did was I just introed him, and then I asked DR to just give some background on him. So that's really all we've done. And by the way, for anyone who's not familiar, Gabriel works at Wolf as well, and he's a Bitcoiner. He is one of the most gigabrain people I know for that stuff. So, Gabriel, it's good to have you in the stream as well. My bad.
Yeah, no, thanks. I just had the invite, just hopped in here, but sounds good.
Legend. Okay, DR, please continue, man.
Hey, we're just kind of going back where I came from. So I grew up in upstate New York. At 18 years old, I thought I was a smart kid, but never really applied myself. So my option was just to get out of that small town. I joined the Air Force. 10 years in airplane mechanic, and it gave me great skills. It really taught me discipline and focus and direction that I didn't have. School for me was, not a matter of getting by, but was fun. It was friends. It was sports. And my priorities were different. Mm. As I got out of that into my 20s, I started thinking, but what do I really want to do? And then thankfully I had the GI Bill. I studied my tail off. I went up through, when I got out of the military back here in Central Florida to UCF, got my master's degree. Published a book on Amazon about Thomas Jefferson and Lewis and Clark, and was actually a history professor for 6 or 7 years. Then taught economics and AP macroeconomics, but kind of got burned out of teaching. So always a curious mind. Went back and used the GI Bill a little bit more. Got my law degree from FAMU. I'm a rattler. And then, I've been running my own practice now for 10 years in Central Florida, Sanford area, just north of Orlando. And that's even led me into several other businesses that I own downtown and a lot of nonprofit stuff, work with Sanford Main Street, Chamber of Commerce. So now that I've grown my business and it's doing well, and I'm very blessed for that, I have started looking at other hobbies in my life. And one of them has been getting involved on X with investments. Now, I've been investing for 20 something years. I'm, in my mid 40s. So in my early 20s, I started getting the bug of, if I just work and save, I'm never going to get anywhere. When am I really going to be able to start getting ahead? My money to work for me. I've always kind of enjoyed that. I've always felt I was good at it. But, I did it on my own. It's an individual sport. In the last year or so, really in January, I had an X account for a long time, but maybe had 200 followers, wasn't really doing much with it. And said, let's try this. Let's see what happens. So about 10 months ago, I rolled out my platform. I started talking about stocks, started talking about investments, started putting on my own content. I've grown myself something I really enjoy. And like you said, the Batman life, once a week, I go live with a CEO. And how cool is that? I mean, me, who's nobody, just a retail guy. And I get to sit and talk with like the exec chairman for CleanSpark or the CEO of Iris Energy. I mean, that's really cool. And then I get to involve myself in other platforms like yours, which I think are really great because you put out a lot of great content to help educate and share. And as long as it's good energy, you can count me in the party.
Let's go.
Awesome.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Man.
Great
Yeah,
intro.
man. 100%. Yeah, I was very curious. So I'm glad for people who have been enjoying your content, enjoying your spaces and conversations and stuff, get a little bit of a deeper look into kind of your life as well. So no, it is the craziest thing you mentioned, just casually doing a podcast with the CEO of some NASDAQ company because you just started posting on X. That is crazy, bro.
It is wild.
I mean, how lucky is it? You guys did a great job today. I caught the most of your interview with Sue Ennis. Fantastic lady, smart, so well connected. I've had her on my platform as well. And honestly, how cool is it, right? I mean, these are major companies. These are billion-dollar companies trading on stock exchanges. And we're just sitting here chopping it up on a Monday. I mean, it's pretty cool. So that's tangible. Actually, it entertains. Yes, but I mean, I learn more doing it than I think maybe a lot of people do watching it. People don't understand. I could be an old guy. I'm in my 40s. I got kids in college. They're your guys' age, and I teach them this stuff. I learn more from teaching them and putting my stuff out there than I think people appreciate. You never know everything. Like I'm learning every dang week, and that's the coolest part. And I think the one thing I honestly learned in my 20s and even my 30s was when to shut up and let people teach you stuff. Sometimes it's natural human tendency to think I'm a smart guy. I'm doing well. I can do everything myself. I learned so much when I host my space with Adrian. I learned so much when I'm in spaces with you guys. I learned just from letting these people talk and just be like, man, I'm in the room with smart people right now. I'm just going to take that in and not try to dominate a conversation. That clicked for me about 10 years ago. I used to be that alpha male. And now I'm just, it's a different lifestyle change. I've mellowed and aged.
What other things have changed over the years?
Well, I mean, come on. It's nothing like having like a couple kids in college. My son graduates next month with a business degree. He actually just took his LSAT going into law school. He's going to be finishing up his spring season. He's an NCAA scholarship athlete, double varsity athlete, actually. So he's got the full ride going to Columbus State, track and field and cross country. So he's kicking around for the spring semester because he wants to compete. And then in the fall, he's off to law school. And my daughter's a sophomore at South Carolina. She's a Gamecock. She's in the nursing program. So nice. I'm at the point in my life where I'm more focused on them and I'm more focused on really, I feel like I maybe got 5 or 6 years left of really running. And then I've been fortunate enough to do well enough where I'm probably going to be, semi-retired, whatever that means. Which I guess my idea is going to be probably keep my law license, take 1 or 2 clients a week just because I like to be active, but really dial it back. Maybe teach a couple classes again. I love teaching history at UCF. Being grandpa in a couple of years. I mean, I got kids in their 20s now, bro. I'm an old guy. So I'm like, this is going to be great. And I'm kind of ready for that part of my life. Sometimes it's good to know that I can let things go. I have a good team working for me. My businesses run well without me having to be there. You always want to be there. You check in on things. But when you surround yourself with the good people and good energy, I'm at that point in my life now just to kind of let things run. I used to be more that 60-hour week guy. I mean, now here it is, 4:00 on Monday. I'm in my garage. I'm talking to you guys. I'm in a t-shirt. I'm loving life, man.
Yeah. That is the coolest thing, dude. That is the coolest thing. Wow. I did not know those things. And big shout out to USC Carolina. That's where I would have gone to college if I had just gone to my normal state college. I love the Gamecocks. A lot of friends who go there. It's a cool school. So yeah, big shout out to the Gamecocks. Big shout out to your son as well. Was it on space the other day? It may have been literally the last Bitcoin space or mining space. Talking about your son. You were talking to him about investing, or he was asking questions about investing, or something along those lines, right?
Yeah, when he was 18 years old, I decided that for his birthday present, I opened up a Schwab account and put $200 in it and said, "Listen, crash and burn, make money. It doesn't matter. This is just for you to get the ideas, to start experimenting with it, to figure it out." That was 3.5 years ago now. He's going to be 22 in February, so closer to 4 years. And I've watched his evolution, and now it's a big part. We talk like every day, and maybe not every day we talk about investing, but not more than a day or two goes by that we don't. What do you think about this stock? What do you think about this? What about options? We talk about, commodities. He's, like I said, going to business school, and a lot of stuff he's studying. He's like, "Dad, we're talking about the stuff that you and I have been talking about for 3 years." And I'm like, "I know." And that's what's the interesting part is when you're 18, I didn't think about it. I kind of figured it out myself in my 20s. So it's been really nice to kind of pass that down. And he's way better version of me. He's me, but a better version of it, because he didn't screw around in high school, and he's off to a great college, and he's doing, getting a college scholarship with sports. He's an old soul. I'm blessed. But I try to instill in both my kids, actually, that if you work and save money in your like regular accounts, you're never really going to get further ahead. And you need to let that money kind of invest and work for you. And I've had so many conversations with him about just investing, and now he still has a small account. He's a college kid, but he's throwing money in here and there. He's doing this, he's got his cold card wallet stacking sats. He's got 4 shares of Tesla, a couple shares of Apple. He's got a few Bitcoin miners. And I'm like, oh, well, be careful with those miners now. But, I try to get him a lot of those, blue chip stocks. And
Nice.
The point was, I didn't care if he lost the money I gave him. It was an account with $200, which not to be like that guy, but who cares if you lose $200? I wanted him to understand the principles. Mm-hmm. And once he kind of understood the principles and could grow it a little bit, he caught the bug. Now he's reading about it. He's trading about it. He's active on X, but he's completely anonymous. He doesn't want anyone to know he's my kid. You'll see him in the chat rooms. You'll never know.
Really? Are you serious?
Yeah, man. He's a known guy, but you wouldn't know.
Okay.
Gabriel, you got to link up with him.
Yeah, for sure. That would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, he's 21, going on 22, about to go off to law school, and he's savvy, man. He's a savvy guy.
Yeah, I'm 21 too, so I think
I get you.
This, but yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool.
I don't know if you guys had that experience with someone in your family to talk to or not. I didn't. Yeah. But I feel like, hopefully if I can give him any leg up, then I'm glad to.
Yeah, it was more on my initiative to get an account when I was 16. And I was like, what do you want for a birthday? And I was like, I want to trade stocks on a stock account. I tried trading.
Awesome.
Yeah, I tried trading like marijuana stocks when that was like
oh, dude.
It did really good until I round tripped it back down. And I was like, that sucks. And then I tried to get into some pharmaceuticals. That did good, bad. And then my first big winner was actually Bitcoin in the last cycle. I bought GBTC. That was the first one where it like took off. And then I was like, oh, shoot, the numbers are changing a lot here. That's pretty good. And then I had the wherewithal. Actually, like I sold it at an okay time. But I honestly now, I probably wouldn't sell Bitcoin. I would, even if I thought it was going down, I'm just holding it, But
dude, that's a funny story, man. I was actually big on that wave of those Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, the marijuana stocks back in 2016, 2017.
CGC,
Oh, my biggest one was PHOT, if you remember that one. And then I had a lot of these stocks because, again, I'm a law guy. I'm a lawyer. And I was thinking, boy, when this legalizes and they go like legal in Colorado and they legalize in the States, there's going to be a lot of interest generated post-January. So I bought in all these stocks like in September, October, and then post-January, flipped them all for $300 or $400. I did not ride them back down. I actually bought a car with them that I needed to help me go to law school with.
Oh, wow.
That's a great story for me.
So you were in
DR,
it became my son's high school car, actually. So that's how I got a marijuana stocks. Yeah.
That is the best story I've ever heard.
Dude.
It's a Mazda 3. I bought it new. I was like, yes, go pop.
It seems like the retail crowd must just be like a pack that goes in the same areas all the time. I was literally in high school with a few friends. Oh, and then the meme stock thing. I didn't get in on GameStop, but I got on Coppery was another one that was getting short squeezed, and I made like a few $100 in like a few days. I was like, wow. But that's crazy. I feel like retail must be all in the same area doing the same sort of thing,
I think so. It's funny how there's all the evolution of the chat rooms, right? The place we used to go like Investors Hub or Reddit, and now bring it to X.
Yeah.
It's like really the best way to distill down knowledge and get it for me that I've found. And I kind of caught the bug. Like after Elon took it over, I kind of wanted to give it a shot. I've been long Tesla since 2019. I was early on. I've been through multiple splits with Tesla. So I'm an Elon guy. We own 3 Teslas. We love it. So it's like, listen, I got this X account for 5 years. I have like 200 followers. It's doing nothing. And now I'm really glad I did because I can't find a better source for stock information than X. And being able to contribute to that has just really been blessed because, who am I? I'm just a guy with a lot of opinions. We all are. But just the one thing I'll say about X is you just got to keep your emotions down. I see so many retail, and that's just retail in general. People get really worked up and they get emotional about plays, and you just can't do that in trade.
Well, would you have any advice for people who do like fall victim to that? I guess. Is there any practical advice that will help them stop freaking out?
Yeah, deleverage. Just don't go in over your head. Do what you can afford. Period. End of story. I very rarely go into leverage or margin, and I almost never do options, just because I feel like a lot of the stocks that I talk about, Bitcoin miners, they're already leveraged plays, and options are like leverage on leverage, and it can be a lot to take in. People have all these ideas that they're going to be here for the pump. And I'm not saying I'm not in any leverage plays. I'm doing really well in my MicroStrategy X, MSTX, MSTU. Can't complain, but those are few and far between. So people who want things to happen quickly or are here just for a quick pump or want to play leverage or margin, they get frustrated. They get angry. I see people throwing their chips in, they're wearing their emotions on their sleeve. And I feel bad for them because, honestly, I'm not ever accounts like buy. I try to share info, try to share news, and you can make up your own mind. And I think that's the kind of account that if you're feeling some kind of way about your performance, you need to stick to the basics.
Yeah. Do you think there needs to be some? I'm thinking about making some Hut 8 content. Just because I was like, I just liked Hut 8. Like, I don't know if you share the same thoughts, Gabriel, but after the conversation, I was like, dude, Hut 8 might be the move. Like, it was a really good conversation.
DR, I feel like we talked about it a little bit on Spaces Hut 8, but it's not something I've personally ever took the initiative to bring up and talk about because it's just not been one that's on my radar. But after the conversation we had today, and after doing research, obviously, for the conversation, I was like, this is a really compelling company.
Yeah.
Because they have she said it in the first few minutes where she's like, we're going out and acquiring a bunch of energy and just throwing Bitcoin in there because we can spin it up quick enough that we can supplement our operating costs. And then if there's a strategic move down the road where we can switch it into a AI data center, it makes a lot of sense, and arbitrage the electrons, as she put it, which made a lot of sense. So I don't know if you had any thoughts on that, Hut 8, or.
Yeah, let me spin this back to a little bit. When I first got into Bitcoin miners back in 2021, and I was playing Hut 8, it was one of the first ones that came out. There was only a few miner options back then. So I've been around the company. I've actually known the company for about 4 years now. So I feel like I follow the industry enough where no notes in front of me, but let's go. When Asher took over as CEO about 11 months ago, I thought that he took over a ship that needed to get turned around pretty quickly. And in 11 months, he's done a great job. Now, by that, I mean, he's restructured their debt a lot. He's gone to their lenders and got them better deal and brought down their overhead a lot. He's done some very prudent decisions. I've been very impressed with the way that he's went out and got strategic partners like Coatue. I don't know if you guys talked about that, but they have a $150 million deal with Coatue, who's a huge tech investor. It's going to help them bring that energy pipeline you're talking about to fruition. Some of what they're doing in Project Vega and using that Coatue money is phenomenal. Now, between the miner option 15 exahash with Bitmain and the fleet refresh they just announced, they're going to go from about 5 exahash to 25 exahash if they exercise the option, and I think they will, by Q2. Bro, 6 months away, we're talking about a 5x of their Bitcoin mining fleet by exahash. And they're bringing down the efficiency to 19.9 joules per terahash. And anything sub 20 in this industry is not going to be the top, but it's going to be the top half. So they're going to massively grow their fleet. They're going to get on the plus side of efficiency compared to the majority of their peers. They have a huge energy pipeline, a financial backer. They've restructured their debt. And Asher looks like he knows what he is doing. I don't see why I wasn't buying a lot more of it when Cade was, because I'm looking back now, this guy's probably up 65, 70% if he's up a dime. And
I got in at $11, bro. I'm up over 2x right now. It's crazy.
Kill it, Cade. But yeah, I mean, look at that feature I just laid out. They have a 5x as far as their volume, and they're dropping their efficiency about 40%. And the lower, the better, obviously. So by dropping it, I mean in a good way. Yeah. They have a huge energy pipeline. They have a partner who's going to help them fund cash. They have a CEO who looks like he's really dialed in and got a handle on their debt. I like the team. I like the play. I mean, Hut is something that, like all these miners, again, it's a tough industry. It's a constant grind as far as operational expenses and CapEx. You have a lot of competition. The hash rate keeps going up. We're going to start seeing other sovereigns come in, nations come in. A lot more of that mining hash, I think, is going to come online from BRICS and other countries. It's going to make it tougher on everybody. It's just more competitors. But beyond that, Hut's also got the HPC AI, the very stable income. They have the GPU as a service. They have other sources of revenue. I think it's a great play. I don't really do much about cycle tops, but if I were getting in now, I think there's still room to run. So your 2x could get significantly better.
Yeah, I've just been holding it. And honestly, the HPC AI has literally been turned on because you and Adrian have brought it up. And then Gabriel's also interested in AI. So literally, like all my best investments this year have been from our spaces together. So thank you both.
Hey, I'm glad it bore fruit. You know, the HPC AI is really just monetizing energy. If you look at Bitcoin miners, the one thing they have is solid, cheap energy. Companies like Cypher, Iron, CleanSpark, it doesn't matter. These companies have great energy. Now, I don't care if they decide to use it for Bitcoin mining or if they decide to use it for HPC, decide to use it for AI. If you have a solid energy contract and you can bring that energy to market, there's a huge demand. We need data centers. We need energy. Yeah. I think everyone can win as long as they follow a successful strategy. Pure play companies, if they know what they're doing and they do it well at a margin like CleanSpark, they'll be great. Other companies like Bit Digital that wants to go HPC heavy, if they have a good roadmap, if they have a good leadership team, they're going to be great too. I mean, there's not one way these companies have to go. I think that bringing this energy to market is going to bear fruit. I'm excited about the Trump administration and the positive changes as far as energy and cost, or just favorability in the marketplace in general. These mining companies, you know, they haven't had it the easiest with governmental regulations the last few years. So, you know, not everyone's going to make it. Not any industry that's kind of new like this do you see everyone make it. But you know, I'm in a great number of plays who I'm very optimistic about, and every one of them has a different strategy, which I kind of think is cool. Some are HPC, some are pure play, and some are those hybrids.
Totally. Yeah.
I'm like looking these up on TradingView as you're bringing them up. I'm like, oh, BT. I was gonna get into BTBT a couple weeks ago. I'm like looking at their entry price right now. So
yeah, you know, they just had their earnings today. I'm really impressed with what Bit Digital's doing. And their revenue they're bringing in, you know, contracts, they have up to right now, as of today's earning call, 89 million annualized in HPC revenue. And if you look at the market cap that they are, about $500 million. And they're bringing in, we're going to do easy math here, $90 million in HPC. They have absolutely zero debt. They have over $200 million in digital assets, ETH and Bitcoin on the balance sheet. About 40% of the market cap is digital holdings with no debt. I'm like, it just doesn't seem priced right. So I mean, of course,
one of these miners needs to hire you.
Bit Digital is not going to be retiring. Bit Digital is one of my bigger holdings, I'd say.
Yeah, it's about to be one of mine.
I mean, just because of the things you're saying, I like that Sam Tabar seems to understand the value of these assets like Bitcoin and like Ethereum. I mean, which I'm more Bitcoin centric, really, but it's just interesting.
Well, my favorite Sam Tabar line is he's not a Bitcoin maxi, he's not an ETH maxi, he's a shareholder maxi.
Yeah.
He wants all these levers he can pull, and whatever one makes the most money, he's willing to do. So he buys, he mines Bitcoin, buys ETH with it, stakes the ETH, makes millions of dollars in staking rewards, puts it back in the Bitcoin business in the flywheel. Then inside of that, it's got 90 million annualized in HPC revenues, 200 million in digital assets, no debt. This company's trading at $500 million. I'm like, I don't get it. Yeah. So I've made it a big portfolio play of mine just on at some point at any kind of PE ratio. And I think data centers that they just bought some Innovum data centers in Montreal and major areas. That PE ratio for a data center company, for HPC company, should be double digits. And if they give them any kind of price appreciation for that, is they're coasting to 200 million in HPC revenues next year in 2025. That's almost half the market cap. So, you know, do the math. Not saying we should buy or not, but that's why I'm in it. Because if I have a company going to make 200 million and holds 200 million, no debt, and they're only valued at $500,000, I kind of want a piece of that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I agree.
Yeah, I just bought into BTBT.
Oh, dude! Last time we did this, you bought into Hut. So this is your 1 for 1.
It's gonna go.
Well, I have a pretty vast portfolio now of the miners. I hold a good deal of them. Actually, some pure plays and some of the HPC. But the more I learn about it, the more I'm like, dude, these are gonna. If Bitcoin even runs a fraction of what it's supposed to, these are gonna send, dude. Like, they're gonna absolutely send. So I'm like, okay, let me. This will be good. I'll get some exposure to the stock market.
I like that Bit Digital has the stable, predictable revenues. I don't care. Bull market, bear market, they're getting paid $8 million a month in HPC revenues by the end of the year when they hit the 100 million a year run rate. I mean, doesn't matter what Bitcoin does. Now, don't get me wrong. I agree with you, Cade. Bitcoin pumps, these are great proxy plays. They're asymmetric upside, but they don't even need that for me to be appreciation in price. They don't. They took a hit on quarter 3 with Ethereum is,
Mhm.
unrealized gains, but the price went down. And since quarter 3 ended in September, it's gone back up. So now they're actually, this quarter, the numbers look bad and the stock went down today. And I'm like, what a great time to buy a little bit more.
Yeah, I was going to say the dip was nice. I was like, perfect. That's
Nice.
exactly what I did last time. I said, which of these has a better entry than the other ones? And I just picked 3 of them. And that's pretty much what I rolled with. But Gabriel, it looked like you wanted to say something. Do you have a question?
Oh, well, no, I was just going to kind of keep going on what DR was saying.
Oh, yeah, please.
Aside from, there being the flywheel from Ethereum to Bitcoin, the HPC AI is uncorrelated in most regards to Bitcoin. So
Yeah.
like that, if you're an AI company that's buying Bitcoin, I want that. Those are the 2 things right now that that can only make sense of that are going to be very valuable in the future.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. I don't think the genie's going back at the bottle. AI and data centers aren't going away, and Bitcoin's not either. They have a very big interest in both at a very good valuation. And that's really, if you take that same conversation about BitDigital, we have the same conversation about all these other plays I'm in. They're mining Bitcoin at $30,000 and it's worth $90,000. That's arbitrage play.
yeah.
Right. And look at a company and they're growing more exahash and they're getting more efficient and they have land development in the pipeline and they could spin off those megawatts for HPC like Hut's going to do or Iron's going to do, or these really are entry-level prices that, you never know. The market, there's no guarantees, but I look at this sector and I put about 30% of my stocks into this and what I consider high risk, high reward, asymmetric upside. Now, I'm still a regular blue chip investor with NVIDIA and Tesla and lots of biotech. I have a very balanced, wide portfolio. I've been doing this for 25 years.
Yeah.
But for 30% in this bull cycle of Bitcoin, I wanted to put into Bitcoin proxies of my stock holdings. I've been a Bitcoiner for 5 years, and that's my cold storage. That's different. But from a stock point of view, I'm 30% in the sector that's like 100% what I talk about in X. And that's just because it's a compelling story. Of the valuations could go from 0 to 100 rapidly, and that's something that I want a piece of. I'm still going to be holding, my Tesla stock. I'm still going to be holding all these other stocks, that I've been in, mostly a tech investor, Apple, NVIDIA for years. And I've done great with those, but 30% was my risk threshold. If you look at like your pie graph, and I'm like 30% is plays like Iron and CleanSpark and BitDigital, and let's go. I think I could blow that up. And if not, it's 30%. And it's not going to, I think that's why sometimes people get very emotional about it. Maybe they're a little over leveraged.
Totally. You have to be willing to live with the decision. And you're like, and I mean, based on everything you're seeing, you're like, this is the best move to make. I'm kind of in the same boat. What are your thoughts on, what's your reaction, I should say, to Saylor buying 51,000 Bitcoin this morning?
Dude, what a Chad. And right before we came on, he just actually dropped a senior convertible note for $2 billion more.
Really?
Like 20 minutes ago.
$7 billion this morning?
No, like 4:15 this afternoon, just before I came on to here. He actually, he bought this morning. He just dropped, MicroStrategy just dropped about 5 minutes before I logged on here to talk to Cade, and he started this without you. Just throwing that back at you, Cade. We actually had this. It was 1.75 billion senior convertible note with an option to oversize it 250 more million to make it a flat $2 billion.
Okay.
So besides the ATM, which they dropped like $5,000 of this morning to buy over 50, he just dropped the $2 billion senior note as well. That's going to fill up this week.
Right.
So the accumulation of Bitcoin, he's already at 311,000. It's going to be really quick with the ATM and convertible notes. By the end of the year, we could easily see 400,000 Bitcoin and probably 500,000 by early 25, which is insane.
At least, I mean,
I'm being conservative probably too.
I mean,
because we haven't even talked about the 21 billion he has in debt that he's going to go to. That 21 plan was 3 years. The ATM is just the first half of it, and he's going to blow through that in 12 months.
It won't even be 3. It won't even be 3 years. It'll be 12 months.
Not even close. And but talk about a man with conviction.
Yeah.
Right. When MicroStrategy did this, no one was doing it. And now the proof is there. I love seeing Semler Scientific. I love seeing Metaplanet. I love seeing Genius and all these companies say, we're doing it. I love seeing Marathon come in and say, we're doing it. And all of a sudden, last quarter, last week Marathon comes up with the last quarterly report. They're talking Bitcoin yield and Bitcoin development company. I'm like, oh man, this is like I'm reading MicroStrategy back in the day.
Yeah.
Now, I've been a MicroStrategy for years. Actually, I was buying the 50s, so I'm thrilled with what Saylor's been doing.
Dude, wow, good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, well, the thing with Marathon, we've had this sort of small debate on Spaces, if it is even a debate, whether it's a good idea they're using the debt to buy or whatever. But my thinking was they can only mine so much Bitcoin. There's only so much they can physically mine. So if they're like, well, we have cash or we're generating profit, what should we do with it? Well, let's go and leverage it and go into the debt markets, and let's, go and buy more Bitcoin with it. It seems like they're just increasing their rate at which they can acquire, which in my mind is not the narrative some people are purporting, which is that they're a bad miner. So I don't know.
People are sick of the dilution. They're sick of constantly using equity to sell. Here's the thing. They're diluting more for their operations than they are about these notes, because the notes are more like a MicroStrategy model. We're seeing convertible notes at 2% aren't really what I'm concerned about. And they changed their name about 4 months ago from Marathon Digital to Mara Holdings. Clear signal, we're going to be a holding company. We're adopting the Saylor playbook.
Wow.
And when they hit a marathon, the actual 2140 or whatever it was, 21,420, and Saylor was talking back and forth with their CEO, Fred Thiel. It's clear these guys have been talking with each other. It's clear Saylor's been telling these miners, stop mining. Mining's unprofitable. Sell notes, buy Bitcoin. I've heard that from others in the industry that I've talked to on my platform. Some have, like Marathon. Yeah. I understand that this is so ridiculous. You can only mine 800 a month, right? That's what Marathon's mining. I think it's just over 700 this last month. And as they swell up to 50 exahash, they're going to run 900. So maybe they mine 10,000 coins a year. And they put that all on holdings, and they're diluting because if they're not selling the 10,000 they mine, they're not really making much money. So they got to dilute for operations. They got to dilute for CapEx. They got to dilute for everything. Maybe the better way is notes. Maybe the better way is to sell a senior convertible note at 2%, paid back by 2030 in 6-month intervals, because that's a whole lot less than diluting your company. But they're doing both. All right. They're going to mine 10,000 coins the next 12 months, and they're going to keep all 10,000 of those. And they're going to sell notes, and they're going to be sitting on 30, 40,000 Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin goes where we want it to go, does anybody care how stupid Saylor might have seemed when he was doing this at 28,000?
Oh, 30,000? I can't believe what he's done. It's crazy.
He got so much heat for doing this at 25, 30,000. He knew what he was doing. So if you believe like I do, that Bitcoin is the apex asset, the pristine commodity, 21 million and done, that's it. You sell your soul to get it. You sell the company to get it. You dilute the shares. You sell the notes. You get as much as you can. You hold on, because we're talking $400,000, $500,000 of Bitcoin in 5 years. Is anyone really going to say, we're talking 2030 when their notes are due,
right?
And Bitcoin is worth hypothetically $400,000. Does anybody care they bought it for 80 and diluted their company? They just 5x their holding, which more than paid back probably what they did. Now, is that something I want to be in as a shareholder is a different question. And the only analogy I can see is MicroStrategy. But keep in mind, MicroStrategy has a profitable tech business, not a cash cow of a miner. So it's very interesting how Marathon's going to play out. I like the company. I'm in. I have a position in Marathon. In fact, on the 14% drop today, I added on Red, even posted about that on my X. So I like where it's going, but I don't know that running the MicroStrategy playbook when you're running a cash intensive mining business is the same as running the MicroStrategy playbook when you're running a cash positive tech business.
Makes sense, yeah.
And we're going to see how that plays out. But for $18 a share, again, I'm looking at 30% of my portfolio. This is asymmetric risk reward. I'm trying to buy something at 18 to go to 60. I'm not trying to buy something at 18 to go to 20. This is not a conservative play. I'm not looking at it to be a conservative play, and I'm okay with it going to 14 and being wrong.
Oh, yeah.
So 30%, I've always been willing to allocate my portfolio for risk. Cycle plays. Marijuana stocks. You win, you lose, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Dogecoin. You win, you lose. I was not in GMC or GME, but I did AMC. And I play certain percentages as just a way to add a small fraction of upside or volatility to my basic tech portfolio. And Bitcoin miners are my play the last year and probably the next few months.
Do you ever like look back and say, are you outperforming like benchmark S&P and that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Over the years, I mean, like, is that a healthy thing to do when you're like, you've been doing this for many years? I mean, I've been doing this, I guess, not really for that long, but is that something you do?
I have, but I don't know that I really care to do it anymore. There have been years, let's just say, for example, my biggest position is Tesla. And when I buy it at Tesla, compared to now, I'm up, 1,200%. Been through, 2 stock splits, 5-to-1, then a 3-to-1. I had years in 2022 and 2023 where I either lost money or kind of broke even. But then I have the years where you're up 180%.
Right.
So it depends on type portfolio you have. If I'm in a tech portfolio like NVIDIA, MicroStrategy, and Tesla, it's that ski slope.
Yeah.
And so year over year, did I hit the metric this year or last year? I've kind of been in these plays for going on 5-6 years now, and way ahead of it. So at this point, it doesn't really matter. I've already kind of shot that year over year performance metric out of the water. So it comes a time where you have to ask yourself, is that a trend that's going to continue? And do I need to reallocate somewhere else?
Right.
But I don't really look at the year to year much anymore, but I think that's just a method of the kind of portfolio I have. If I was doing more of an index fund, dividend funds, yeah, I want that. But,
Right.
like every old guy in Florida in my 40s, I got my IRA. They do that for me.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I got my managed, my wife's got her 401k. I've got my IRAs, and those are just traditional leverage house. But my stock portfolio that I've been managing myself for 25 years, I'm more looking for volatility and new emerging sectors. I've always been a tech guy, whether it be whatever cycle play there was or whatever tech play there was. EVs were big for me. The marijuana growth stocks are big for me. Bitcoin was big for me. I've always kind of tried to get in ahead of that curve, and it's done me well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very nice.
I mean, Cade and I have been talking, we think, like you said earlier, I actually used the word apex asset in our earlier podcast with Sue.
Nice.
In terms of Bitcoin. And so
Cade and
I have been talking about Bitcoin. I don't know, Cade, what are your thoughts on Bitcoin and rising and all that? Where are you thinking? Because I'm trying to get as much Bitcoin as I can, just long term.
Yeah. Long term, my mindset entirely changed. I said it before. It changed on a Bitcoin space because I asked Simon Dixon at the end. I was like, "Hey, what am I missing? Why am I not stacking sats? Like, why don't I care about that?" And he was like, he basically gave me the pitch. He's like, because you're not looking at it the right way. Like, you have to think about it as an asset that you can't get enough of because it's being mined and other people are buying it, and you're not going to be able to get your hands on enough. And he said something to that effect, but a lot more convincing. I'm no lawyer. I'm no salesman either. But he convinced me. And then we went to the Bitcoin conference, and I was like, oh. And so the next week I started stacking, and I'm pretty sure I called you and Charles and said, okay, I'm in. I've got a significant position in my investment portfolio, and I was like, I'm in. So for me, the seeing it just run and being like, okay, it's for sure back. It just blew past all-time highs, and it wasn't even trying to. It was crazy. So to see it fly past 90K, I was like, okay, yeah, I think for the average person as well, who maybe put Bitcoin as something that pumped that one time a couple of years ago, but it probably isn't anything real. They're looking at Bitcoin now. They're like, okay, I was wrong about something. And I think I came to that realization a few months early, thanks to the spaces. But the more I learn about Bitcoin, the more interested I get into it. Same with the miners. I'm actually curious, DR, you're out here pretty prominent on X. A lot of people end up clicking on your stuff and keeping up with your updates because you're pretty on top of it. Do you think that the things that we're putting on the timeline, the content we put out, the spaces, the interviews and stuff, do you think that makes any kind of impact on the industry? And if it does, what kind of impact?
Oh, it makes a huge impact on the industry. Let's be honest. These are CEOs and companies that in the grand scheme of things are really unknown. We live in a bubble in X. We live in a bubble thinking like Bitcoin is such a huge deal. I'm telling you, I had a meetup on Saturday here in the Orlando area at a beer garden. I had about 20 people come down, Bitcoiners, and we're at a craft beer bar. We're doing our thing. And I go up to the bartender and I'm like, hey, so today a bunch of Bitcoiners are coming. We got the beer garden out back. You know, anyone needs anything, send it to me. You know, just want to give them a heads up. You know, we're going to be a large group. And he's like, Bitcoin. He's like, boy, I wish I bought in on that. I completely missed it. Now it's too late. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, absolutely. And he's like, I don't even have 90 grand. How can I buy a Bitcoin? I'm like, I know, right? So I'm not trying to orange pill the bartender. I'm not. It was not the time or the place. But my point is, we live in a bubble. The outside of X and guys like you and me talking, I could go to a group, a room, a restaurant, 100 people, and 4 or 5 might actually know a little bit about Bitcoin. And maybe 3 of them might have a little. That's so early on the adoption curve. It's pitiful. So these companies who are Bitcoin miners, they don't get good funding from banks. They don't get good lending terms. They don't get people to understand their business. And they sure as don't get time on CSNBC, Wolf Street. They don't get any of the major pub to the level of other companies do. Now, the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ traded companies, they're billion-dollar companies. They're legitimate. But we shine a spotlight on them, even if it's a tiny one. That's one of the only ones. Who really puts content out? You got your OGs in the space, maybe like your McNally Money, the power mining guys. You got some YouTube guys who are real good, Invest Answers, Sebastian. You got Wolf. You got some of the stuff I'm doing. You might get 8, 9 fingers off your hand, and then you're like, I'm out.
Wow, that's a good
and
point.
we might have what, 15,000, 20,000 followers?
Yeah.
I mean, in my case, so I'm not a big account. It's, if you really think about it, when Bitcoin hits in Q1, Q2 this coming year, when it really hits and starts getting that mainstream kind of love again, you start hearing about it everywhere. People have no idea the United States is looking to add it as a strategic reserve. People have no idea there's ETFs for like Vanguard and BlackRock and these companies. People have no idea that BRICS is looking at this as a way to circumvent banks and sanctions and to mine it. People have no idea there's companies that actually mine it that you can invest in. People have no idea you can even buy a part of a Bitcoin, or that Bitcoin isn't just for criminals. It's so early, dude. And I feel like anything we can do now, even if it's a lighter in a dark cave, it's something. And I think that's why I've been getting so many of the CEOs, executives on my platform, because they are dying for any kind of microphone or podium they can get. They want to sell their company. They want to connect with investors. They want to be in the public eye. And if you give that to them and you do it fairly, not gimmicky, not slanted, just give them that forum, they're going to want it. And so what you're doing is incredibly important. Think about just this today. We're talking, you're buying a Bit Digital stock. Last time we did this, you bought a HUD 8 stock. Take that times 10 people in your audience. Maybe those 10 people talk to one of their other friends and you have that ripple effect. You never know. And it's that many more than were doing it before we started. And, you know, I don't think there's any real downside to doing it. So, you know, if people don't watch my channel, people don't look at my interviews, people don't follow me on X, I'm going to survive. I'll get past it. I'll stop crying. You know, I'm still going to go out to dinner with my wife tonight. We're going to have a good time. So I hope what I do helps. But at the end of the day, I mean, you can't make anybody do anything, but heck yeah, it matters. It always matters. People who front run things have long periods of being unknown. And then all of a sudden it gets real big, real quick.
Compared to like other, I mean, so Tesla, amazing to be in when you were. I traded Tesla. I didn't hold it. But, you know, the marijuana stocks thing came and went. What was the other things? I don't know what else we're talking about. Genomics, whatever. I think Bitcoin is like by far, it's amazing what it is in and of itself, like the commodity Bitcoin and where it's going.
Not even as an investment, just as something.
It is. Yeah. It's
culturally.
Yeah, I mean, so I haven't even told you about this, Cade, because I think it's something that I've kind of recently discovered. But you guys know who Robert Breedlove is, I'm sure. He just did a podcast with somebody who was coming out with this thesis that the former, John Nash. Do you guys know Nash Equilibrium? The guy from the movie A Beautiful Mind. So this guy wrote a book and did a comparison of his writings to Satoshi. And is making the case that John Nash was Satoshi.
What? Is there any like credibility to this?
So I'll send both of you guys it after and check it out. Kate gave me this tip to watch stuff at 1.25 or 1.5x speed.
Well, I said 2.5x, 3x.
2.5x. Geez, what kind of downloading system you got? That's crazy. But Like, okay, I would just watch it quick, but I mean, I'm compelled that there's a good chance it might have been John Nash, but regardless of whether or not it was him, I mean, it's a revelation to me too. But check it out for yourself, like listen into it. But if it wasn't him, I read his paper. I read a paper that the guy spoke about from Princeton recently, like his old paper from Princeton about this idea of asymptotic money. He was writing about asymptotic money in 2002, 2003. In 2006, he was quoting F.A. Hayek. He's like, Hayek is someone I've recently discovered, and I feel like our views are very parallel. And then in 2008, at perfect timing, this paper gets released by someone named Satoshi Nakamoto. It's like, it's kind of crazy. I mean, he was in the Princeton cryptography lab. Like if you read or I guess you could read the book Beautiful Mind, but I mean,
the movie.
Yeah, there's means and there's motive. I think if there was a case DR the lawyers, it's just crazy.
Would that be? What would you think about that, DR, if we found out this was true?
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I've always thought that Satoshi Nakamoto was an individual. I just thought it was such a massive work of such scope that it really was a group of people who worked together to finally, release something pseudonymously, just anonymously as a group. And I'd be amazed to find out whoever it was, because to have the foresight or the fortune for it to turn into what it turned into is phenomenal. And you'd have to have a beautiful mind or somebody to that level to do it alone. I've always thought it was a group of people working together just to encompass all that it can. And we've been talking all this time about it as an investment, and it is. And it can be, because any true life-changing technology that elevates your standard of living or elevates your ability to transact, freely and to decentralize from maybe an oppressive nation state, or to take your own control back, has value, has amazing value. So of course it is. But beyond that, boys, you've traveled. I see your timelines. You get around to conferences. There's great case to be made for Bitcoin being the world's money. I don't have to take my money and convert it to euro or yen or pesos. I just send to you and you to me. We do it ourselves. No wire transfers, no days of delays, no fees, no regulations, just free exchange. Yeah. What a beautiful concept.
Yeah.
What a beautiful concept. And that's why countries are going to be fighting for it really soon. It's already begun.
Gabriel, remember Sue's origin story she told us earlier? It was literally that exact thing. She had to go
told you the Amazon story?
And yeah, I was like, oh my God, what a story. I was like, that's
a cool story.
Cool.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The coolest. Here, I was going to say, so, well, like this podcast is flying by. I was going to throw in a couple questions related more, less on the mining side and more on your, just like you in general. But in terms of your lawyer stuff, I just want to quickly hit on this. As an attorney, you've spent, I guess, a majority of your career running your own practice. I'm sure working before as well. But curious on some things you've learned. What kind of attorney are you? By the way, you are very compelling when you speak. And I was like, that must be some of those lawyer skills kicking in a little bit. I was ready to buy more Bitcoin while you were talking about it. I was like, I don't have enough.
So, before I was, when I came out of the military, I thought I wanted to be a school teacher. Right. I had my bachelor's degree when I got out of the U.S. Air Force. During my time as an enlisted, I was a sergeant. I was working flight line. I was working on gunships, special ops in the Asian theater. I was a go-getter in my 20s. Lived that life, loved it, but knew I wanted to get out of it eventually. So when I got out with my bachelor's degree, the idea was to be a school teacher. And my first job was teaching 5th grade at Apopka Middle School, geography, latitude, longitude, social studies. And I learned really quick how to put together presentations, keep people's interest, talk, speak. That's really where I thought it all kind of came from. And then up through master's program, and then time as a professor, UCF, Seminole State here in the town. I taught classes the whole time I was going to law school, so I could pay to go to law school. And then, moot court and legal experience. I've been talking for a living for 20 years now. So it gets easy, and I like it. I hope, people, when they listen to me, it's very off the cuff, but I mean, I'm comfortable doing it and I enjoy that. So as a lawyer, I actually don't do it much at all. I'm not really a courtroom or trial lawyer. I'm a transactional lawyer. What that means is I build trusts. I do deeds. I do wills, powers of attorney. I help when people come to me, them to take care of what they have, make a plan for it, So it goes to their beneficiaries without court, without probate, without taxes. I help people basically plan their estates, their property, their finances, wills, trust, powers of attorney, deeds, etc. I do go to court probably 2 or 3 times a year when people fight over wills or fight over trusts or there's a dispute. Things like that do happen. But otherwise, my practice is really straightforward. And living in Florida with the demographic I have, a very senior demographic, it's very needed. I have a lot of people who, in their 60s, 70s, 80s, who they don't have a plan. And they're like, listen, I got grandkids, I got a house, I'm getting old, I need to kind of do a will, put things in place. And for me, I'm just, like I said, good energy, no drama. You come to my office, nice to meet you, Miss Smith. How can I help you? You need to draft a will. We make sure your granddaughter gets this, your grandson gets this. We put things in trust, we put things away. I take care of them. It's good money. It keeps me stress-free. And then I've been working for myself doing it for 10 years, and I absolutely love it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the coolest. I was curious. I think you may have told me on one of our first calls a long time ago. Back when I was.
I'm gonna end up back in the classroom. When I retire in about 5 years, I'm probably gonna keep my bar license just because, and have like 1 or 2 clients a week. But I'm dying to get back into teaching at UCF about law, about history, maybe even economics. I've taught all of them.
There you go. You should be the Bitcoin voice. Seriously.
I think I could teach a good class on Bitcoin or history or law or a combination of all of it.
Absolutely. I think
you enjoy teaching in college. That's pretty cool.
Dude, it's so fun. I didn't like teaching high school and middle school as much. I had to deal with PTAs and faculties and standardized testing, and college was great. I come in the room, I'm a professor, and I get to chop it up with smart kids like you, and the time goes by real fast.
Gotcha.
Let's
That's
go.
cool.
Love it. Curious as well. So spent a lot of your time doing that. You mentioned that the Bitcoin mining, the stocks was always something you were doing on this, or investing on the side. And then you find Bitcoin mining and things like that. Are you relocating right now? We're about to see a house tour.
Turn on the light behind me, my man. It get dark here in Florida. Sun goes down at 5:30 these days.
Wow.
Dude, same. It's going down a lot earlier here. And it's
so I was seeing the shadows. I went behind me to turn on the light, so I just carried the phone over with me real quick. Yeah.
All good.
I got into Bitcoin because, myself, I was actually smoking ribs Super Bowl Sunday 2019 in my patio. And I'm sitting out there and I had about 8 hours because, you smoke ribs. You got to take your time with these. So I'm out there all day. I'm a couple beers in and I'm reading this economic treatise because I used to teach AP macroeconomics and I'm an economics nerd and I'm a history nerd. And I'm reading this treatise about cryptocurrency and something like a John Nash guy wrote, right? Ironically. And boy, it resonated. And I'd heard of Bitcoin. I've heard the term Bitcoin, didn't know a lot about it. So then right then I flip over from the PDF I was reading on my tablet and I start looking at Bitcoin. I start looking at different, learning about it more and more. And by the time those ribs were done and I'm eating on Super Bowl Sunday, I was a Bitcoiner. So I kind of got into it myself. Yeah.
That's awesome. Did you
About 2 years later, I got into proxies because I'm like, well, if Bitcoin is worth this much, I want to buy some of the companies who actually create it, who mine it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Did you ever mess with the other stuff or were you just Bitcoin only the whole time?
The only thing else I got into, my business partner who owns 3 or 4 breweries and bars downtown Sanford, and we've been working together on a few side businesses. We own some other properties and such together. He got me into Dogecoin at about, 5 for a penny, way under a cent last cycle. Wow. That's the only other digital asset I've ever owned, besides my massive NBA Top Shot collection that me and my son have been rocking for 4 years.
No way.
Awesome. We love the Top Shot, dude.
Wow. Did you hear about the
Kyrie Irving? A long time gone. Yeah.
Were you participating at all in the NFTs when that started to pop off 3 years ago?
Sports ones. I did the NFTs I got into was NFL All Day, NBA Top Shot, Series 1 for both, and was buying, ripping open those packs, flipping them, selling them, made a lot of money. That was my NFT experience. I didn't do any others. I'm boring.
Dang. I would not have been surprised if DR was like, I had a bunch of Bored Apes. I had a bunch of all these like NFTs. That would have been the clip of the century.
Yeah. My son and I are sports guys. He's a college athlete, so we're like, oh, NBA, Top Shot, NFL All Day. We were buying the sports NFTs. We thought it was hilariously fun, and then we made a good money on it too. So
sure, absolutely, that is awesome.
Cool.
Okay, well, I had a couple other questions here. We got about 10 minutes, or we got 5 or 6 minutes left, or something like that in the conversation. So, I would like to hear some kind of story that comes to mind when I mention like a setback that you weren't expecting, and then sort of how you bounce back. That can kind of be related to the last few years in like the Bitcoin world or in the investing world, or it could be related to something entirely different. But just interested if anything comes up to mind.
Yeah, something different. I mean, investing's, it's fine and good, but your best stories come from life. And to me, investing is just like one little part of a bigger thing, and I think people need to keep that in perspective. You let investments be your be all end all, or your stock market, or even like the money in your pocket, you're doing things the wrong way for me. So the biggest life change thing I told you about my 2 kids. My middle child passed away when she was 7. So Lily was a beautiful soul. She was sick ever since she was 5 or 6 months old, never had good quality of life, had intractable seizure disorder, having 8, 9, 10 seizures a day that completely destroyed her ability to function or think on her own. And living with that, and my kids living with that, we've always had a very different perspective on what life is, how fragile it is, and the different ways that you just make the moments count. So it's kind of just framed everything to me. Life's too short. I don't do grudges. If I screw up, I'm sorry. I take a high road. I fall on the sword. I got no ego. Look, I just want to have my life enjoyable. I don't want anything hanging over my head. I want to love and take care of my people. When you lose someone, when you understand how precious it all is, I don't care if my stocks go down. Yeah. I don't. And I don't really care, what car I drive. And I don't really care, where we go on vacation. I just want my family. I want my friends. I want to be happy. And the setbacks in life, dealing with a sick child, losing a sick child when she was 7 years old, nothing else can really hit like that. And to me, somebody wants to do any childhood things about gossip or, grudges or anything like that. How petty. I don't care. You're going to get nothing from me but my heart. So it just framed everything in a different way.
Wow. Sorry to hear that, DR.
She's in a way better place, man. She had a painful life. You know what? She gave us a lot of good messages. We're all better for her being here.
Of course. Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that, DR.
Yeah, of course.
Crazy. Yeah.
Appreciate you. Yeah. That kind of perspective, there's no way to get that unless you go through things. You're absolutely right. That was very powerful and certainly a great message to get out to the people. There are things that matter, and then there are things that matter in your day-to-day, but they're nowhere near the same thing.
Hey, I'm a season ticket holder for the Eagles. I'm passionate about my team. I got a bunch of Bitcoin mining stocks. I'm rooting them on. But at the end of the day, you got to bring it home. You got to be okay with you. You got to bring it home and be what you are and be happy with yourself. Give your best to your people every day. They're going to give it back to you. And then life is easy once you get to that. Before I made a dime, life was easy once I got to that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Gero, I see you. The one question kind of came to mind here, and I'm really curious to hear DR's thoughts on it, just because it's become legalized in the last couple of years, and I'm just curious to hear his perspective. Do you think you can be successful and be a stoner, smoke a bunch of weed? Do you think the two can ever be a thing? I guess I've been curious because it got legalized, and then kind of all the hype around it, I guess, didn't fade, but it sort of just became a legal thing. So people that just moved on with their life. But I've seen both. I feel like I've seen a lot of people who are super successful and they smoke all day long. And it's hard to know if they're actually getting things done behind the scenes, of course. But I am curious on your thoughts on this, if you have any.
I mean, different strokes for different folks. It doesn't work for me, although I've had some of my best creative moments when I was definitely, experimenting with different substances. And then, there's time and place for it. I'm not the kind of guy, and this is just my own thing, who can do a 9 to 5 and be dialed in and be the go-getter I want to be unless I'm sharp. And I do everything I can: eat, exercise, be clean, hydrate, sleep. I want to be my best every damn day. And that doesn't include, to me, smoking. Other than the cigar that I'm casually puffing on here, my talking about great habits and being clean, right? So, and then, but we all got our habits. But I can't do anything that affects my thinking. I want to think clearly. That said, there are times for relaxation and creativity and experimentation, and I have absolutely found myself in creative places that I've never got to sitting on the couch drinking water and eating green beans. I just don't do that. So I'm going to be just fine when I compartmentalize it. As far as can you be successful doing it every day? Yeah, you can. You're just not like me. I'm a guy who puts his head down and works. I didn't get through law school because I was unbelievably gifted. I got through law school because I worked my ass off. I didn't pass the bar exam because I was so dang smart I could walk in and take the test. I studied my tail off 10 hours a day for months on end. I walked in there saying, ask me whatever you want. I'm ready because I did the work. I can't do that if I'm cutting the corners and if I'm stoned. It doesn't work for me. But some industries, very different, right? Mine was more about a thinking thing. Other industries, I think you get away with it more. And then again, I went to a lot of guys who I won't name names because, the Florida bar is probably listening out there somewhere. They did it just fine. There's not one of them. But yeah, everyone's different, right? Some people have a different way of getting themselves in the right frame of mind. For me, I couldn't sleep at night unless I knew that I did every dang thing I had to do to be ready. It's just how it is. But yeah, why not? I mean, I don't have any harm people who do that on the daily. I have lots of friends who do it on the daily. Very successful people do it on the daily. It works for them. It just doesn't work for me. And if it doesn't work for you, you don't do it. Like I don't need anything in my life that that's going to bring me to a place that isn't my best.
Yeah. I mean, interesting thoughts. I mean, for me, the drugs thing, the only thing that's interesting to me is like RFK and his whole approach to it of like, let's just make everyone more healthy. You know, the best drugs for people to be consuming aren't the ones pharmaceutical companies are selling to people as antidepressant or whatever, or whatever 100%. Else it is. I mean, so I'm in that boat with it. That's the part I'm curious about in that regard.
Marijuana is so much better than opioids.
Right.
It is so much better for like pain relief, for other things that we can use it for. It is a great medicine in the right place. Can I go about my daily, meet with clients, drafting legal documents, writing? No, I can't. That's just me though.
Yeah.
If it works for you, great. And again, I think there's time and place where anxiety, relaxation, pain relief, what a wonderful drug. I think it's long overdue being legalized. I was investing in marijuana stocks, been very advocate about trying to get the law passed here in Florida. It's long overdue, both as a tax revenue for the state and as a help to the people. I love what RFK is doing. The MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, is probably the most exciting thing about the administration for me. What we eat, what we drink, what we're able to do, we got to change it. We have to. We're chronically ill and obese in our country. We have problems with what we have in our diet. Marijuana is not the problem. Opioids are a problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think I may be curious because Gabriel brought up the marijuana stocks earlier. I was like thinking about, I was like, why did this pop in my head all of a sudden at the end of the podcast? I was
investing in it, and I was smoking at night, like as a way, like if I went to school all day and I studied hard all day and I ground for 12 or 15 hours, maybe I smoke one up and watch some Netflix before I fall asleep. Take the edge off and relax anxiety, but I can't work like that.
Yeah,
it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you're having to meet with people, it is tough. It is tough. So, well, listen, I was going to say this, Gabriel, unless you have any final questions. I
really appreciate the hour. Learned a bunch. It's always great to get to know people better. Especially when you're just talking on X a lot. Spaces are great, but videos are even better. So, great talk.
Man, anytime you guys need me for anything, you got my number. Give me a holler.
Awesome.
You're a legend. Dear, I was going to say we could probably end off with this. If you have any general practical advice for people who are in this industry right now, at a Bitcoin or at a $92,000 Bitcoin, and they're like, all right, I'm kind of unsure. I'm 28, whatever. I'm just sitting here. I'm not sure what to do. Do I just sit here? Just curious if you have any departing words that might be helpful to them or anything like that.
We really are in a bull market. I don't see any other way around the price of Bitcoin and anything Bitcoin related, AI, HPC related, fading into the relevance anytime soon. We are in the early stages. Does that mean the price is going to go up every day, every week, every month, or even every quarter? Probably not. But if you take things with the perspective of an older guy, the time frame lengthens out, the low time preference. Tell me what 4-year span Bitcoin didn't do well for you.
Yeah. Wow.
You're going to be just fine. Just keep on doing what you're doing. Just don't over leverage. Don't overcommit yourselves. Make sure you're taking care of the things you got to take care of first. But if you have extra money, there's so many worse places to put it than Bitcoin. In fact, I can think of about every one of them. Wow. So I would be just fine putting my spare change. I'm no different than anyone else. I have a Strike account, and I look at the end of my week, and I have like my checking account, and I'll have like an extra $82. Guess what I'm doing with it? I'm just going to throw it into Bitcoin because where else am I going to do with it?
Strike's the best. Yeah,
I just buy what I have, like extra change in my pocket. You know what I mean? And just it adds up like bricks in a wall.
Yeah,
True.
Jack
You don't
Paul.
need to be a millionaire. You just need to do it for long enough. I've been buying small buys since 2019. Orange pilled my wife. Orange pilled my son. Family fund is strong. The family's safe and strong.
There you go, man.
Let's go. Let's go. I cannot think of a better way to end the podcast. So, DR, thanks, man. Thank you so much for coming and dropping the heat.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
100%, man. 100%. And everyone who's listening, please give DR a follow if you have any interest at all in this world. He's definitely one of the top people to follow and keep up to date with. Turn on his notifications. If you're on X, click his thing. It's right up there in the title. If you're on YouTube, go to the description, give him a follow, get involved. And if you need help in law stuff, legal stuff, also maybe hit him up. Check out his website, you know?
There you go.
Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you,
All right, everyone. We have spaces every single day here at Wolf Web 3. We've got one in like a couple hours, actually, I believe, for Bitcoin mining. So we'll be back on spaces. And we've got video streams as well. Come in and we'll see you all later. Take care.
Perfect.